Sometimes you'll need to assemble your FieldTemp sensor string in the field. This could be due to unknown constraints at your field site, or maybe because the string is just going to be too long to be shipped in one piece, and it would be expensive to ship that much PEX tubing to you. Well, you can do it with hardware store supplies and a few simple tools. While we prefer to build your FieldTemp sensor strings for you here in-house and we can calibrate them and send them to you all tested and ready to go, sometimes that's just not going to work. Maybe your string is going to be many meters long and we couldn't send it to you in any practical way. Or maybe you're not sure what the field conditions are going to be like and you're going to need to do some adjustments on the fly. We can help with that. The easiest way is to tell us how many sensors you want in your string, and we'll create this sensor string layout sheet for you. And then you can assemble the string in the field as I'm going to show you. It is possible to change the number of sensors or change the sensors by reconfiguring the head unit, but that's an advanced topic covered in another video. So we're going to assume that you have your string setup sheet, and you're going to need a few basic tools. You're going to need a PEX crimper and PEX cutter. You're going to need PEX rings for 3/4 inch PEX. And you're going to need the sensor head unit. So this is going to be pre-assembled from us. It's got the first sensor installed in it and the head unit electronics. You're going to need the sensors that are part of your string. All of these are serial numbered with custom printed heat shrink tubing. And then you're going to need the bottom of the string, the bottom unit, which is just a sensor crimped to a short piece of PEX with a blind end cap on it. You'll need our crimp wire connectors, the crimping tool for those connectors. You'll need a ruler or tape measure to cut the PEX, and you'll need some form of marker. And finally, you'll need 3/4 inch PEX. You can get this at Lowe's or Home Depot. It comes in a variety of colors. We generally use white for our sensor strings, but I'm going to use red for the crimping today, so there's a little bit more color contrast for the video. So let's get started assembling our string. The first step is going to be to look at my sheet and make sure that I've got the right sensors and see how long my PEX tubing needs to be. So I am looking for a sensor that ends in 2AB, which is the one I've got, and I want that to have a 1 foot offset from the top sensor in the string. So I'm going to take my PEX and my ruler or tape measure and marker, and I'm going to make a mark at 1 foot. Now, using the cutter, you want to make sure that you cut as square as possible. Here at the shop, a lot of times after we cut these, we actually put them in the lathe just to get the ends really square because we like doing things with a little bit of overkill. But you can do just fine with one of these in the field. So I'm going to put the tubing in the cutter and make my cut. Okay, now we can set our extra tubing aside, and we've got the tube ready to go. You can double check the length if you want, maybe trim it a little bit. But now we're going to need to insert this tube between these two sensors. So I'm going to take the wire and feed it through the tube. So this is our second step, is getting all the wire fed where it needs to be. And don't forget that you're going to need to put the PEX rings on. You don't want to get everything all crimped electrically just to realize that you forgot to put the rings where they need to go. Okay, so I've got those rings. Now this connection is ready to make. The wire's already run. We don't need to do any crimps here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my crimper. There are instructions in the pack with most crimpers. Make sure you follow them. On our crimper, I need to unlock the back, and I need to make sure that we're set to crimp setting 1. Then I'm going to place the crimper die, put the ring about the middle of the fitting, and then go ahead and crimp. Keep going until the tool unlocks. So you shouldn't be able to twist or move this. It should make a very, very firm connection, and that's going to be fully watertight. Okay, so now we've got this wire coming down. We know we need to connect it to this sensor. This is the next one in our line. I'm going to use the short end, and I'm going to go ahead with my pliers here and try to get these wires separated. So I've got my power, my ground, and my data wire, red, green, and blue. And those are going to connect to the same color, red, green, and blue wires here. So I'm going to trim this to where I've got, about 4 to 6 inches of wire sticking at the bottom of the tube. Separate these wires. And now I'm going to take my crimp connectors and insert the red wire from each into the connector, and then using the open top part, crimp until it won't crimp anymore. You'll see a little bit of grease come out of the back of the connector, and that's okay. That's perfectly normal. It's there to help keep that connection weather tight. So now I'm just going to repeat that process for my ground wires, making sure that I get those wires all the way to the back of the connector. And for the white wire or the data wire, make sure those get all the way to the back and crimp. Now we need to feed the extra wire, which shouldn't be a whole lot, and these connectors up into the tube. You can stagger them a little bit. That helps get everything fed in a reasonable way. Push them in there. Okay, now I've got that sensor ready to go. So I move my PEX ring down again, and it's time to recrimp. So I open up the crimpers, put them on, and go ahead and crimp all the way. Okay, again, we've got a nice secure connection. Now we're ready for our next segment of tube that's going to go between our final sensor and this intermediate sensor. This is only going to be a 3 sensor string. And if I look at my sheet, it's going to be another 1 foot segment. So this is just a 1 foot spacing string. So I'm going to get my ruler and marker, mark another 1 foot segment, get my cutter, cut the tube as squarely as I can. You can go ahead and put the rings on ahead of time if you like, or you can thread them over the wire. Either one's fine. Okay, so there's my tube with the connectors on the end. Go ahead and feed the wire through. And it should come out the other end here, pull it all the way through. Okay, position my crimp about halfway on the fitting, and now it's time to crimp this connection. Okay, so we've got a good crimp there. Everything's tight. We're ready to connect our final sensor. So again, I'm going to trim this to where I've got about 6 inches of wire sticking out the end. Separate my 3 wires. Notice you don't have to strip the wires with these crimp connectors that we use. That's a really handy feature about them. And this one's a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it down. Go ahead and separate the wires, and now we're going to do our crimps. Take the crimp connector, 2 wires of the same color, go into the connector. Using this open end part, I grab the connection and squeeze all the way down. Both my wires are in there. They don't want to pull out, so we know we've got a good crimp. These connectors do have a clear back, which makes it possible to see if your wires are all the way in. Okay, and now I'll do my red wires for my power line. Okay, those are all crimped. So we just feed the connectors and the wire up into the tube. Again, you may have to stagger the connectors to get them to easily go in. That's why you don't want to leave the wire too long. If you do have a little bit of a clog, you can take something like your marker pen and gently push everything up. Okay, and I'm going to insert the bottom unit there and go ahead and crimp it. So that's all there is to assembling your own FieldTemp sensor string in the field. It just takes a couple of hand tools, and as you can see, in just a few minutes, even with me videoing all the steps, we were able to build this nice string that has 1, 2, 3 sensors and is totally waterproof and is going to last for years of field service. If you have any questions, be sure to check out our other videos and the documentation, as well as reach out to our support team. We're always happy to help you configure your system or answer any questions that come up.